Hello, everyone, and welcome to Connectivity Conversations, a podcast by ATC Nigeria, where we talk about insights and innovations for building a more connected world. My name is Aderonke Adebanjo. I'm your host. Thank you so much for joining us on this very first episode. Now, as a trusted strategic partner in the telecommunications industry at ATC Nigeria, driving conversations, proffering solutions, talking about connecting the unconnected, advanced technologies, analyzing trends, these are all things that are very, very important for us and what we're very passionate about. And so here on Connectivity Conversations, we're going to be talking about all things connectivity, everything from infrastructure to sustainability to advanced technologies, socioeconomic development, connecting the unconnected, the future of connectivity, and so much more. So we invite you to join us on this journey as we uncover connectivity. Now, on today's episode, we're going to be talking about connecting the unconnected and what we need to do to close the digital divide. But before we go any further, I'd like to invite you to subscribe and, of course, share your feedback because we would be delighted to hear from you. Now, as I said, we're talking today about connecting the unconnected and what we need to do to close the digital divide. And one of the reasons, before we get into our topic today, why we're doing this podcast in the first place is because we want to make an impact in the industry. We understand the importance of adding value, and we want to bring thought leaders and other industry players to unpack and uncover various aspects of connectivity. Now, connecting the unconnected is such an important topic when you consider what's happening in the industry. And I have somebody here today who is going to break it down and do justice to what we need to do to close the digital divide, particularly in Nigeria. So join me as I welcome the Chief Operating Officer at ATC Nigeria, Soji Maurice-Diya. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Aderonke. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you for being here. We're happy to have you, especially on the very first episode.
I'm the guinea pig.
Yes, you are. All right. So, Soji, I've kind of already alluded to our topic, which is, of course, connecting the unconnected. There's so much happening in the telecommunications industry.
Sure.
Lots of advanced technologies. We're talking 5G. There's already talk about 6G. There's so much happening. But we know that in Nigeria, a lot of people are being left behind.
Yep.
They're not connected. And we want to talk about today how we can close that digital divide. So let's jump right into statistics. What is happening when you think about the industry, but also the unconnected? What is going on there in terms of the numbers?
Sure. I mean, I'll play around with a few that we do believe to be valid. So let's start off. Let's take a step back. I think we can all agree that Nigeria's population is roughly 200 million, give or take. And we've heard anything from 10 to 20% of the population is unconnected, essentially meaning that they have limited or no access to being able to make a voice call or access data or the digital world, so to speak. And that might seem, manageable, 10, 15, 20%, right? But if you contextualize it, that's 40 million. That could be up to 40 million people that are unconnected. But even if you take the lower end of the spectrum and say 20 million, that's still most countries don't have 20 million people,
right,
if you look at it. And so to have an entire country or countries being left behind, so to speak, that's scary. But then take a further, dive into the statistics. And you see that, the World Bank report, I think it was 2022, suggested that up to half of Nigerians were not digitally literate.
Wow.
Right. So that's 100 million people that don't have basic digital skills. Again, even if you say that that's a little bit exaggerated, you're still talking about tens of millions of people who essentially are left behind. And then you don't even get into things like what you consider sort of underserved markets. And if you're just looking at, as a base case, people that don't have quality internet, right, or quality voice services. So it's a huge challenge, and it's one that I don't think we should shy away from being stakeholders in the ecosystem.
Absolutely. So what is the implication of these numbers? Why should we be concerned, right? Because, you go about your daily life, you have your phone, you have your connectivity, you have everything that you need. Why, as a collective, should we be concerned about these numbers? And what is the implication of leaving these people behind?
Right. I mean, I was saying to you earlier that I grew up in the 90s where globalization was this big thing. It was, you're either for it or against it. And you don't hear it as much. And the reason why you don't hear it as much is because we've all accepted that we live in a global economy. And you cannot afford to not compete globally. From Brazil to Bangladesh, there's going to be global competition for talent. You can sit in Aja and earn dollars. You don't have to earn naira. You see lots of innovation in the fintech and the technology space, actually, broadly speaking. And that comes with the ability to be able to be connected, literate, educated, and able to perform at a high level in that space. So the implications of it, is that you will find the rich, quote unquote, getting richer, and the poor getting poorer, and being far, the ability to climb up the socioeconomic ladder reduces. Their ability to do so reduces without that as a baseline from a digital perspective.
Absolutely. So when you think about closing that divide at ATC Nigeria, right? We focus on solutions, not problems. That's actually one of our core values.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the solutions when you think about it holistically that we need to start looking at, or that we're already looking at, in terms of closing that digital divide?
Yeah. So, we've always been passionate about trying to provide solutions, as you said, and not focusing on the problems. And I think from a product point of view, we a few years ago decided that we were going to be very aggressive about having a radio, or RAN as a service, we call it, which is essentially a rural connectivity product that allows us to deploy solutions and connect the unconnected. We've only managed to get it off the ground this year. We have 100 communities that are rural, and we're able to provide connectivity for the first time. So that's at a baseline, from a product's point of view. Outside of that, we also playing a role in the communities that we already are in by providing free digital education through what we call the Digital Communities Program, which is a CSR program. We place a container with a minimum of 12 computers, and monitor air conditioning, and pay for a facilitator to come into those communities and train people in the communities for free on digital skills. So it can be as basic as sort of how to use a computer, and sort of intermediate in terms of building a website or doing some minor coding or basic coding.
I love what we're doing with the DCs, by the way, and we're going to come back to that in just a moment. But I don't want us to gloss over RAN as a service. Can you just delve a little bit deeper into what that infrastructure is and like how it works?
Okay, so if you take a step back, we are at what we call an infrastructure provider. Our job primarily and historically has been just providing the backbone on which the telcos then bring their equipment to provide service. The RAN as a service product is an integrated product, where we are providing not just the infrastructure, not just the tower, but we're also providing the active components. And what that does is that it saves our customers costs in terms of their ability to deploy. So they don't need to buy active equipment. We integrate it as a single solution. We can rely on their spectrum and their marketing to be able to drive usage. From a user perspective, it's no different. So it will look like any other service that as you would have in the urban areas. And it's really a cost driver, and it's a cost savings initiative to ensure that we do have communities that are connected.
And it's one of the ways that we partner with our customers.
Absolutely. Right? I mean, all the telcos are our customers, and we're always looking for ways to better serve them. And we do think it's something that can scale. Like I said, we're at 100, and we have no issues going to thousands of these in the coming years. Absolutely.
So let's talk now about the digital communities. Tell us a little bit about what's been going on with that over the past 5 years.
Yeah. So we started this in 2017, 2018. The goal was just to find ways in which we can have an impact in communities that we're already in. As I said, these containers are they're usually next to our tower, so we can provide 24/7 power as needed to the containers. And right now we have slightly under 100 of these again. And they're really in tier 2 cities. We haven't really cracked the rural. I mean, with one of our customers, I think we're going to find ways in 2024 to have them in more rural areas. But they're sort of tier 2 cities that we think are underserved in terms of digital education. If you think about what digital education is the ability to circumvent the traditional means of education and do it very fast and easy. So having classrooms, can be built, but you can give everybody a device. You can find ways in which you can connect them and give them the opportunity to go find what they need to be successful ultimately.
And, there's so many testimonials that have come out of the DC program where literally people walk in, walk out a few months later, and they've upskilled, they've improved. So can you give us one or two?
Yeah, I mean, I remember in Kano, there was a security guard who was in charge of taking care of the site, the tower itself, and the DC. And after a few months of watching people going in and out, at some point he said he volunteered. He said, "Can I come in and he's done that." And this is someone who was barely literate to begin with, and in a few months, not only is he able to use a computer, he's actually teaching other people. So sometimes even when they're done with classes with the new intake, he goes in there and he supports them, and his quality of life is better. His ability to interact with the global world, to upskill himself. We've seen people get scholarships abroad from this initiative. We've seen people, be able to get jobs and really improve themselves. And for us, it's about people taking whatever they can from it. So we're not going to force anything. The curricula differs in different communities. We are also trying to be a lot more intentional about gender balance.
Right.
If you look at parts of the country where it's not necessarily easy to get women and young girls into schools, it's an opportunity because then it's flexible, an hour or two a day. In a controlled community. In some communities, it's fine. We will have only female-led classes so that so the women do feel comfortable in the classroom. So it's for us. It's a dynamic platform, and I use the word platform intentionally because it's something that a lot of other things can be layered on top of it to make it more sustainable.
Right. And just even talking about that. So when you think about the digital communities 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what are we hoping we would have achieved in terms of what we're doing?
No, I think it's that, right? It's a community, and the goal is to make it, if you think about a community center really is or should be, as a place that people can come and find multiple use cases for their benefit. So for us, we open to partnerships around health or healthcare, financial inclusion, power solutions, because it's a base that a lot of things can be on. As I said, we're slightly under 100. We have the interest to make this thousands if possible with the right partners. But more than the numbers, I think, is the impact, to find ways to make them more efficient, effective, and that we can have, hopefully 100,000 people in 5 years who've gone through this program and can point to the things that they've taken from it to improve their lot.
Right. 100,000 in 5 years. Where are we now at 5 years?
I think we're slightly over 24,000. We did have some challenges during COVID. We had to mothball the programs for about a year and a half. So that took away. And then, we ramped up quite slowly as we learned about it. But we're in a good place now. We have partnerships with two of our major customers who are providing support and connectivity. And I think with even more, we can do so much more.
Absolutely. Such exciting stuff when you think about closing that digital divide and making it accessible. And I love what you said about gender balance and really getting the women involved as well, especially in the areas where this is just not something that they always have the opportunity to get involved in. So now let's talk a little bit about partnerships and collaborations. We're talking, the stats that you gave us at the beginning, you said 10-15%. That's a large number, and closing that digital divide is going to take a long time. But I think we can fast track that with partnerships and collaboration. So what sort of partnerships do you think would be required to even just fast track that closing the digital divide?
I think the starting point is really the regulators, and we have had very positive engagements with the NCC. But I think outside of our regulators, there are many partners in the ecosystem, and we've been fortunate to interact with some of them. We have IBM providing a lot of the curriculum support. We're signed on to a consortium with UNICEF, which is really driving the sort of the back end around jobs and around youth empowerment. We have our customers, as I said, who are partners, and I think they will scale with us. And we're open to all manner of partnerships, even if it's over the top players like Facebook and Google and Amazon. But I think it's going to take a village to help drive this thing down. I don't know that any one person can move the needle in terms of this. But I think if we all sit down and continue to have the right conversations and an open approach to this, that will continue to make a dent in what is obviously a very, very serious problem.
Absolutely. I think that's a great way to end the conversation. Thank you so much, Soji, for joining us on Connectivity Conversations by ATC Nigeria. Just before we go, can you tell us a few last words on the connectivity discussion? What would you say would be your parting words?
No, I think it's, first of all, I think good job on setting this up and getting us in the place where we're ready to have these conversations. And I think it's the start of many things where we can really open up about what our challenges are, where we need support. Ultimately, it's going to take lots of different angles to try to crack, to even educate ourselves as well. And we're open to having these conversations with anybody who's willing to have the conversation. We're just part of this much broader thing. And we're Nigerians, right? We want Nigeria to be successful, and this is something that is the bedrock of Nigeria cannot be successful without good connectivity.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Chief Operating Officer, ATC Nigeria, Baba Soji Maurice-Diya, also known as Soji Maurice-Diya. Thank you for joining us once again. And everybody, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, give us your feedback, and come back for more connectivity conversations. My name is Aderonke Adebanjo. It's been a pleasure being your host. We'll catch you on the next one.